The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. We all know that Africa have natural resources in abundance. And before we came with our civilization, our forefathers were mining these natural resources without causing harm to the society until the pink color came in contact with us. Recently, we heard that Niger kicked out French Orano mining company, and we all didn't know why. But the true reason to which the French Orano company was sacked out of Niger has been given out. According to our all in all, the Savior, the Protector, the Unifier, the Messiah, the King of Kings, the Most Loved, that studies have shown that these mining companies use these chemicals that are very harmful to the human existence. And the people who are living close to these mining sites are suffering from some kind of diseases. And when they did their research, they realized that it was because of this mining that these people are suffering from these diseases. So the best way was to kick out this French Orano company.
In the 1960s, just after independence, France and Niger signed agreements setting the framework for a highly profitable business for the former colonial power. In other words, from the outset, it was a win-lose deal. This is how the story of the Niger uranium grab began, when the Gaullist government decided to equip France with a nuclear industry. So France secretly embarked on the development of a deterrent force and detonated its first atomic bomb in the Algerian desert in February 1960. Uranium supplies would have to follow. As elsewhere in Africa, Niger's independence was conditional on a series of agreements binding the new state to the former colonial power. These agreements have a military dimension, but they encompass a number of sectors, not least raw materials. In fact, the annex to the defense agreement with Niger, as well as Daum and Côte d'Ivoire, considers, and I quote, that thorium, uranium, lithium, beryllium and their ores are raw materials and products classified as strategic. The signatory countries prioritize sales to the French Republic. At the same time, France asserted exclusive control over future uranium production in the new state of Niger. And so the origins of an already win-lose deal. What follows is now well known: more than half a century of exploitation in defiance of universal rules and standards concerning respect for the environment and human and animal health. In economic terms, according to a number of Nigerian and French researchers, only 12% of the value of exported uranium went back to Niger, while Niger has made a major contribution to the development of France's nuclear power, since 15% of the uranium needed for the French power plant came from Niger until 2023, and 1 in every 3 light bulbs in France is powered by uranium from Niger. 85% of Niger's population have no access to electricity. A reverse colonial behavior in Niger. This behavior is all the more shocking given that uranium accounts for 70% of Niger's exports and only 4% to 6% of the government budget. 1 in every 3 light bulbs in France is powered by uranium from Niger, which costs €7 per French citizen per year. Niger receives barely 12% of the value of exported uranium. All this is the cost Niger has to pay for France's so-called energy independence. An independence that doesn't exist. France imports 100% of its uranium ore, including around 20% from Niger. France's nuclear system is a sham, because France France has been using coercion to ensure the security of its uranium supplies to Niger since independence in 1960. A system that has survived. We call it neo-colonial because of its political and military stranglehold on government. Since independence, France has made and broken governments. Every time a government in Niger asks for a higher price for uranium, or simply for the application of tax and social laws, France puts pressure on it and makes sure it's done. Get the government to lower its sights or dissent and obtain a change of government with a government of its own. Closer to what she wants. Another bitter fact is the pollution of the fossil water tables in the Arlites, a region that abounds in large quantities of fossil groundwater. These are crucial water reservoirs for communities largely dependent on the resources that nature has built up over thousands of years. But the mining and processing of uranium ore. By inadequate practices. Decades of waste management, liquid effluents and treatment residues containing hazardous chemicals and uranium have gradually polluted its important water resources, which are in ever-increasing demand. And what's even more critical is that today, this week's drinking water addiction points in Arlit. Taken from the Teloy Aquifer. As you can see, with today's growing population, the demand for water is becoming ever greater. So the demand on this water resource is going to be ever greater. This means that pollution will be a major drain on water consumption and population. As you know, the mine is an underground mine. It represents about 600 kilometers of galleries. These 600 kilometers of galleries are currently being flooded by water. So the risk here is that all the water tables will come into contact. And when they come into contact, all the water tables are contaminated. The plants have been installed on fracture networks. Because in the past, there was a lot of technological movement in this region, and also during the period. Exploration drilling was carried out to find the deposit. In many cases, these boreholes have not been plugged. But as these boreholes cut through the subsoil, they intercepted groundwater. So these are points of weakness, of communication for any infiltration or pollution towards these groundwater tables. Since 2009, there has been significant infiltration observed on the communication side. Chemicals. Industrial pollutants have contaminated the groundwater, specifically the Teloy water table, with hot water basins containing cleaning water filled with dirt, chemicals, and uranium. And they were laid on an outcropping part of the Teoui Nappe, which is the nappe of very large-scale outfits that just run here all the way to Balayara. This state of affairs can lead to contaminated water that is a health hazard. It's not just the people in the water who travel. So it goes on all over Niger and beyond the Niger member, it can go to other neighboring countries. So we have tailings from uranium processing, generally referred to as inverse tailings. The result is a mixture of solids and liquid, including therefore the chemicals that are from the treatment spilled on site easily. This radiological desire often descends therefore the dip, therefore the fault, and which contaminated therefore the groundwater, bears and tharasites then the rocks in the area, they contain carbonate. This follows the contact between acid and carbonate, leading to the creation of oral reservoirs. At the communication closure and the brand new total Nutter 44 and the drowning of Des, crusher hoppers, conveyor pans, loaders, the bolter from their home, several agents of 4 pipe children they drowned in the mine. Underneath, they say that when they bring it up, it's material they may have contaminated, and that's not true. Now these materials are underneath, they are down below. they are being targeted, and when they are targeted, they are going to contaminate the air. Orano had contaminated the analytics. Incalculable consequences for the once abundant flora and fauna. So we didn't take precautions, we consumed the firewood. Dalit to Tumia, to Isherwan, because we needed thousands of meters that per month for firewood that we fetched elsewhere. And so we cried out there too, a disaster. That's what concerns the flora and fauna, of course. There, she was in Harley in the vicinity, and today she's in Trimit, maybe 600 kilometers away in Arli. Only there can you meet someone. Responsible exploitation by mining companies, mainly Orano, the outskirts of Arlit have been reduced to a lunar landscape of desolation, synonymous with a future with no tomorrow. A future written in dotted lines in Arlit. The future is indeed bleak. It's a city that's always been polluted, and what we've seen is really an exhibition. The population is constantly exposed to radioactivity through radioactive dust, radon gas produced by all this radioactive waste, contaminated scrap metal, contaminated textiles on sale in the markets, the fact that there are radioactive materials in the streets, a level 100 times higher than normal was measured on the track in front of the hospital of one of the mining companies, and the fact that the inhabitants are even exposed in their homes, due to new construction. With radioactive materials, a uranium miner. In the 68s, we brought together the traditional chiefs and authorities and told them, listen, if we mine uranium, you'll agree that Arlit will be like Paris. That's why we call Arlit 2E Paris. Unfortunately, today, Arlit looks like Drouin, and where there are tailings, 100 of 1 million tailings that were exposed to the air and less than 5 kilometers from the city as the crow flies. And unfortunately, that's what we call sustainable pollution. And the pollution is there, unfortunately. Meanwhile, the so-called Uranium Road, once one of the jewels in the crown of Niger's road network, is now a mere shadow of its former self, so much so that the heavy goods vehicles chartered by the mining companies have used and abused it, leaving the road in an extremely advanced state of disrepair. Livestock have also paid a heavy price. Contaminated water leaves little chance of survival. Many ex-employees of mining companies also pay a high price. While in France, Orano guarantees 100% health care for its ex-employees. In Niger, however, they are left to fend for themselves in a climate of total indifference. Just one guy. It's gonna be like Magali. Same insults. You're welcome. Nothing, my rascal of arms than Sana al-Umar Sunamata. ID Damman, Alkmu, Junam, Alekumu, Sandishi, Baboom Sandish Hiva. For many decades, the activities of Orano X Arriva have not only worsened the availability of quality water, but have also depleted a significant part of the aquifers, particularly Tarat, over a large part of the area covering the industrial site, jeopardizing agricultural production and local economic stability. It is therefore imperative to vigorously tackle the pollution of Arlite fossil aquifers, not only to maintain people's livelihoods, but also to preserve the delicate balance between mining operations and environmental and health integrity. This is why the state of Niger has decided to shed light on this major problem of fossil water pollution. He asked a team of experts from Niger's universities to draw up an exhaustive report on the situation. This study will also be complemented by an analysis of the socio-economic impact of uranium mining on the country. Indeed, the CNSP and the government, in keeping with their commitments, will not blink an eye whenever it comes to defending and preserving the vital interests of one of the world's major players. I think that's the point. To touch it is to touch the sovereignty of our country. And we say no, Niger can trade with whomever it likes. Ultimately, those responsible for France's heavy predatory past or liabilities in Niger must pay the polluter, to use an expression that was once in vogue in Europe. After all, the polluter pays principle is a legal and economic principle governed by Article L. 110 UN of the French Environment Code, stipulating that the costs resulting from pollution prevention, reduction, and control measures are to be borne by the polluter.
These companies have come into Niger for a very long time, ever since they gained their independence in the 1960s from France. And they have to sign this deal with France so that France will give them the freedom that they claim they are giving to us. This French company was mining the natural resources in Niger for a very long time. And instead of these people to benefit, they are rather losing. Niger with uranium was sleeping in darkness. Yet Europe was enjoying the energy that these people were not getting. African leaders have allowed the oppressors into the continent to keep suppressing us. These people have come in the name of mining the natural resources, and at the end, they are destroying our environment, our water bodies. Now we do not have clean drinking water in Africa as a result of this. These people come into Africa to mine the natural resources that we have with every kind of harmful chemicals that they will not allow them to use in their countries are the chemicals they bring into Africa to mine the natural resources, and these chemicals at the end of the day affect us, the citizens in Africa. But because our leaders are dancing to the tune of the oppressor and these people are house slaves, they have nothing else to do rather than to allow them to keep doing what they are doing that is causing harm to us. When you go to Congo, Ghana is the same thing. We've seen that Ghana do not have potable drinking water as a result of galamsey. So this situation or this problem is not only affecting Niger, but it is only Niger currently that have taken the bold step to kick these people out to safeguard the lives of their people. And even when the evidence is out there that these things are harmful to we, the citizens, you will still get politicians that will come to defend and cover up everything. But most of these politicians don't drink water in Africa. Everything of theirs is imported. So if you, the selective few that we have put in charge to take control over the nation's affairs, are putting us at risk because of the money that you get to take care of yourselves, what about the people that are putting you in that position? We can't keep suffering, dying, all in the name of the natural resources that we have that are not benefiting us. These people go to sign deals, and at the end of the day, it's just like giving everything away for free. Others are getting 7%, and they come out to tell the world how best they have been able to negotiate a better deal. You shouldn't be negotiating with people that are coming into your continent to take what belongs to you for free. You should be the ones that determine what happens, but we rather become beggars, begging them to please consider, give us 3% out of it, give us 5%, forgetting about the danger, forgetting about what this thing will cause to the society in the future. These people sign deals 50, 30, 40 years where they know very well that before that time, they wouldn't be in existence. So they just do not consider the next generation in whatsoever deal that they are having. When you go to the mining sites in Africa, the people that live around these mining sites, the kind of diseases, skin diseases, the vegetation, their water bodies, Everything is destroying gradually. People still do not have a place to farm agriculture. What we cultivate and eat, our lands are taken away. Africa is losing its lands. We do not have places to cultivate what we eat because these mining companies are destroying everything in Africa, all in the name of politics. The democracy they've given to us is what is giving them the upper hand to do what they are doing, because these politicians are gatekeepers that they have kept in place to help them to move the agenda ahead. You've seen that Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are taking them out because they've realized that, one, the deal is not beneficial to the African and it's destroying our lands, our natural resources. It's destroying the vegetation, our water bodies. They know the best way to mine these things without causing any harm, yet they wouldn't do it. The things that they can do in their continent and in their respective nations, they come into Africa and they do them. Now, water is a problem. Our livestock are dying. Our forests are gone, all in the name of the oppressor, because we want to please these people. It's so painful. So we have to educate ourselves and rise up and resist this kind of thing. If our forefathers were able to mine without causing any harm to the environment, our forefathers have always had us in mind. And that is why we still came and met what we have met. But today we are destroying everything. Very soon, all the trees and everything that is beneficial in Africa is going to die because of these mining things if we don't put a stop to it like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are doing. United we stand, divided we fall. Credit to ORT. So that's the latest around the world, in Africa, West Africa, and in Niger.